Hi everybody, I'm Brian Wise. I was a science teacher for 20 years, so the standard I selected for this assignment is a NGSS standard. It's one of the Earth and Space Science standards, ESS 2-6. Develop a quantitative model to describe the cycling of carbon among the hydrosphere, atmosphere, geosphere, and biosphere. I love this standard because it ties together concepts from a lot of different branches of science. Obviously, you're learning about earth science because you're learning about the oceans and the atmosphere. But you can also teach your students about chemistry because carbon dioxide affects the pH level of the ocean water. But you're also including some concepts from biology because global warming is affecting the pH, which really affects the coral reefs of our planet. And you can also incorporate a lot of concepts about how students make everyday choices that affect our planet. So the resource that I selected for this assignment is a PBS module, Coral Reefs and Climate Change. It's part of the Healthy Oceans series that was produced by the California Academy of Sciences. I think the California Academy does a great job of making videos and lessons that are relevant to high school students. This video, for example, has several student narrators who are about the same age as high school students, and they speak the students' language.
Help the coral reef, which is absorbed.
And they also have some really high-quality animations and
build the shells and skeletons.
Very instructive information that's really easy for the students to understand. The clip is about 6 minutes long, so it maintains their interest. It's not boring and dry.
And so it might.
So let's look at the assessments. There are several support materials that go with this video resource, and the first one is a list of discussion questions. Notice these discussion questions are formatted in PDF, like they're going to be printed on paper. They're very low-level comprehension questions, so these are not really the most relevant assessments, I think, for blended learning because this is basically an old-fashioned worksheet. However, a good teacher could maybe incorporate these questions into something a little more interactive. Personally, I would take these questions and put them into maybe a Pear Deck or a Google form or something that the students could be interacting with as they were watching, and maybe give them a chance to discuss these questions. If they're not in the same room at the same time, they could have a structured discussion on Google Classroom or in a Google Doc where they're talking to each other and typing out some sentences and responding to each other's ideas. Another resource is a vocabulary list. Personally, I think vocabulary is best taught in context. I'm not a big fan of just having students memorize definitions from a list, but this might be a resource that could be useful to provide your students. If they're second language learners, they may want to look up a word or two that they don't understand. So this would be something that I would provide as a resource maybe. There could be a review game or something if you want to do that with the vocabulary, maybe through a Kahoot or some other kind of game. But the best resources, the best assessments, I think, are on this page where they have some deeper levels of understanding, maybe using some higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. For example, this activity, students will use Desmos to draw a graph of carbon dioxide concentrations over history. I think that's a great way to incorporate some math concepts, make it a little more rigorous in that respect. There's also an investigation. Students can choose a region of the world and study the coral bleaching in that region. I think this would be much more relevant to the blended learning environment because students would be allowed to express some creativity by choosing a part of the world that they're interested in learning more about. It gives them some suggestions like the Philippines or Belize or the Galapagos Islands, Okinawa, the Maldives. So there's some potential here for students to differentiate depending on their interests and learn about a different part of the world. This final one is a very interesting idea. The students should come up with some solutions for what everyday people can do to protect coral reefs in everyday life. And I think that has a lot of potential for blended learning because there's going to be some online research, and they could even publish their ideas as part of a class blog or class webpage for an authentic audience. So I have a lot of hope for that one. Again, most of these activities would need to be tweaked. The teacher would need to make them more relevant and interesting, but there's a lot of potential here. Thanks.